The second question, prostration points. Any particular supplication to make when you go into prostration, when somebody's reading the Quran, saying Tarawih, for example?
To the best of my knowledge, there isn't an authentic hadith where the Prophet tells us ﷺ, that you should supplicate in so-and-so when you make the prostration of the recitation, sujood al-tilawa. Some scholars give different supplications, but none of them is authentic to the Prophet ﷺ. Therefore, you may supplicate with these different supplications, and if you limit yourself to Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih, that would suffice.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, the sister's third question is regarding something that comes at the end of Ramadan, is Zakat al-Fitr. She wants to know, this Zakat al-Fitr, first you can explain to us what it is, but does it have to be paid by somebody who has that money, or does it have to be paid by everybody, even if they don't have work, don't have the money?
In the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Ibn Abbas, and Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with them, the Prophet ﷺ instructed his followers to give out on the night of Eid, which is the last day of Ramadan. You should give out 1 sa' of food to the poor. And this sa' is an equivalent of 2.2 kilograms of dates. So you can give the equivalent of this weight of dates, of wheat, of whatever rice, food that people usually consume. And the Prophet stated that this should be on every individual. So if it's a male, a female, a slave, a free person, a grown-up, a child, we should give out a sa' on each one of them. And this is to be given to the poor, so that they would not go and ask for food on that particular day, which is Eid. Now, having said that, scholars did not say that if a person has no income or does not work, he should not give out zakah. On the contrary, they said that any person who has what is enough to feed him on that day, whatever surplus he has to give if he can find it. So if, for example, if I have enough, if I have 5 kilograms of rice in my house, let's assume that 2.5 is enough for myself. The surplus, which is 2.5, I should give it out and give it as a zakah. Some would say, but you're already poor.
Yeah.
You have only this amount. Well, the others will give me in exchange, and I'll have much, much more. But this, as a ritual, I have to pay myself to the poor.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Brother Abdurrahman asked a question, quite an interesting question, because we find ourselves in this kind of dilemma. The adhan goes for Maghrib, we open our fast, some go to the mosque straight away, some have a big banquet in front of them. He's asking, which is the best one to do? Should we just eat something delicate, something light, a date, water, get to the mosque, pray in Jama'ah and come home? Or should we eat, because we've been fasting the whole day?
Well, first of all, I'd like to convey my greetings to the brother Abdurrahman. I truly envy him, because he's a newly revert to Islam, which means that all his previous sins are gone with the wind. And now he's opening a new chapter, a white page, and I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that He fills it up with all the good deeds, and He does not stain it with bad deeds. Second of all, we have rulings, and don't be deceived by the customs of people. Always go back to the Quran and Sunnah, because this is what Allah will hold you questionable on the day of judgment. Meaning, the Prophet tells us, alayhi salatu wasalam, in an authentic hadith, that if the prayer is called and the food is served, the Prophet tells us, begin with the food. And this is an authentic hadith. And the Prophet also tells us that there is no prayer while a person is needing to answer the call of nature or in the presence of food. And why is that? Scholars say because it is essential for a person to pray, but with his submissiveness and contemplation and concentration to the fullest.
Intact, without him wandering anywhere.
Yes, because if you go and pray while you are thinking about the food, the Imam says, وَلَضَّالِّينَ, and say, I'm hungry, instead of saying Ameen. Because you're thinking of the food, you've been fasting for the past 16 hours.
Yeah.
Islam tells you, alhamdulillah, sit down, eat, but of course don't eat until you're up to here with food. Eat what is enough. So if you eat a meal, if you eat, take your dates, drink your soup, eat some sambusak and drink water, drink some juice, this would probably take a 10 to 15 minutes time. This is more than enough. Go to the masjid afterwards and pray. And this is the sunnah, that you get what you want from the food and then attend prayer. If you are strong, some people don't feel that hungry. Alhamdulillah, now with air conditionings and with the blessing of Allah Azza wa Jal, we don't feel hungry or even thirsty. So if you break your fast with 5 or 7 dates, drink a glass of water and go to pray and come afterwards and then have your feast, this is acceptable, but it all depends on you. If you feel the need and urge to eat, no. Get what satisfies you, eat and drink, and then attend the prayer afterwards.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. I just want to touch on a point you said there. Maybe you can expand it for our viewers. Ramadan is a time when we're supposed to look into ourselves, a time to contemplate, a time to reflect on. Unfortunately, it turns into a time of eating. It's something that's really associated with food because you're abstaining from food, to the point where, to many people, they actually gain weight in Ramadan. I mean, this thing of overeating in Ramadan, is it something that Allah speaks about, that the Sharia speaks about, or the Prophet gives some guidance towards, or not overeating, not overindulging?
Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in a verse of the Quran, eat and drink, but do not exceed. Because exceeding is part of the way of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
So, eat and drink as you wish, but know your limits. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, it is sufficient for a person to eat 3 or 4 bites. That would make his back straight. He's not hungry, so he walks straight and tall. And the Prophet goes on to say that if you want to eat inevitably, then 3rd for your food, 3rd for your liquids, and 3rd for the air you breathe.
This in your body here.
Yes, so you make it in proportion. Into 3/3. Unfortunately, nowadays people say, well, I'm going to save the last 2/3 of liquids and air. I'm just going to fill it up all with food. And you can see this clearly.
Yes.
You can see this manifested in Taraweeh prayer. People pray Maghrib, they go back to their homes, and you have a full table of everything.
Yeah.
Of sweets, of soups, of sambusaks, of main 3-4 main courses, and they fill it up to the rim with brim. And when they go to Taraweeh, they can barely walk, like Humpty Dumpty. And when they stand in the row for prayer, their knees hurts, their back hurts. When the Imam, bows for a little bit, more than 10 seconds, they feel like throwing up. So they pray 2 rakahs and then just go home and sleep. And when Fajr comes, it's the same thing because they just had the meal of suhoor.
Oh, yeah. And
Asr and Dhuhr, they're sleeping because they spent the whole night, they were awake the whole night. So all of this is un-Islamic. Have one meal and one type of food, that would be more than enough, because then you would go and pray and you can have your mind intact, understand what the Imam says. But for the woman to sit for 6 hours in the kitchen, not praying, not reading the Quran, not doing anything useful for her day of judgment, just cooking like a slave.
Yeah, we have these questions where sisters say that for me Ramadan is more to do with what goes into the kitchen. I mean, it's a time of ibadah, worship, or reflection, but poor sisters there in the kitchen.
See, she's rewarded for what she's doing,
yes,
but not to that extent.
Yeah.
Yani for a woman to sit 6 hours in the kitchen cooking, and then at the end of it, you get complaints from the husband. The salt was too little. It's overcooked. It's not. My mother makes it better. Now this is unacceptable. Focus on what's enough to feed the hungry mouths, and that is it. something decent, pleasant, but one course, not 6 or 7 of them.
Barakallah fik, Sheikh. Jazakallah khair. Okay. Sister Hamza now from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have a question. I will be traveling to India shortly, and there the fasting begins a day late. And I want to know, like, in the traveling, we have been given the concession of fasting. So when I go there, I will be completing my 30th roza, 30th day of fasting. So I want to know whether this day of concession I have to again compensate later on, or will it be included in the day which I will fast in India, which is an extra day.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Jazakallah khair, sister. Sister Hamza there from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Okay, this question, Sheikh. Somebody's travelling from a country to another. Unfortunately, like you said, we still don't have a unity on Ramadan. So some countries, they start later. The sister says she's not going to be fasting that day, but she's going to be completing at least 30 in India. Does she have to complete more?
Okay. First of all, if we ask the sister about the day that she broke, was it in Ramadan or was it outside of Ramadan? The answer would be, it was in Ramadan.
Yes.
So she definitely did not fast one day of Ramadan. And she has to make up for that day. Now when she's traveling to India, she will be fasting the 30th day, more than what she had started in Saudi Arabia, who, for example, did 29 days. And even those who started in India, they're doing 29 days or 30 days. For her, because of the different regions, she'll be doing 31 day. So can she consider the extra day from as a compensation for that day she missed? The answer is no. That day has to be fasted in a separate month other than Ramadan. And what about the 31st day that I'm fasting, which is an extra? Well, that day is a must for you to fast because you are following the people in that country you're in. As the Prophet said, ﷺ, the day you fast is the fasting day for all of you. And the day you break your fast is the day you break your fast for all of you. So it depends on the country and the region you are in. And let's reverse this. If people from India come to Saudi Arabia, and when we celebrate in Saudi Arabia the Eid, they would have fasted only 28 days. So should they continue the 29th day of Ramadan during the Eid? Would they fast the day of Eid with us? The answer would be definitely no. So what would we do? They only fasted 28 days. The answer is that they should celebrate Eid with the people in Saudi Arabia. On the second day or onwards, they have to make up for the day they've missed.
But this is a very interesting topic because many people, when you do see in a community, people making Eid on separate different days in one community, and I think one of the most important things is unity at this time.
This is an issue of controversy because one school of thought says that we should all celebrate Eid on the same day. We should all start fasting on the same day. The whole ummah is one. But this is not logical because we have different regions. So even we have different time zones. So if we have people in Australia, for example, and people in Saudi Arabia, they're down under. So for us to say, okay, they've sighted the moon, and we're a day ahead of them or behind them. And it depends whether we go to the east or to the west. So if we go to the west, maybe they're closer to us than from the east. Logically, each region has its own sighting. And that is, and scholars say that it is estimated by 2,226 kilometers. So this is the distance for every region to have. And you cannot unite them. Because, and I'll give you an example. Some people say, no, you have to unite them. If someone sees sights the moon in India, the people in Morocco should start fasting. Well, this is not logical because, for example, for Hajj, in Hajj, if people see the moon of the Hijjah in India and the people do not see it in Saudi Arabia, we follow the sighting of the moon in Saudi Arabia. Which means that if you say, no, you have to follow me, this means that those who are standing on Mount Arafat on the 9th of the Hijjah, according to the sighting of the moon in Saudi Arabia, they are standing on it on the 8th of the Hijjah, according to the citing of the people in India. And this could not be. This means that the 3 million people performing Hajj are not actually have performed Hajj. And that is why Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and the major council of ulama, of scholars in Saudi Arabia, and a lot of scholars throughout the time say every region has to have their own sighting.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Okay, we've got next Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Happy Ramadan to both of you.
And to you too, Sister.
Thank you. My question is regarding interest. If I want to buy a house, I'm just putting down the scenario that the builders have given me.
Okay.
They are giving a certain cash price that if I pay just once for the whole house, the cash price I have to pay is, for example, 1 million riyals. And if I pay it in installments, they have given me a certain price that per month you will pay, for example, 5,000 riyal or so. Everything is specified. At the end, I am paying perhaps 1 million more, 1 million more, for example, in 15 years or 20 years.
Okay.
And they have calculated, the only question I have is that they have calculated that the extra amount that I'm paying is at 5% rate per annum. They have calculated it for me, maybe to make it easier for me to understand that how much extra I am paying. But I don't know if it is legal or it is, because it's not written interest rate.
Okay.
Interest rate is not mentioned. What is mentioned is rate 5% for the rest of the amount per year.
Okay.
I just want to know, before I go for buying this house, I just want to know, would it be halal or would it be dealing with interest?
Okay. Jazakallah khair, Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia there. Jazakallah, Sister. Okay, that question for Sister Aisha, I think we should answer it. We've got a break coming. Buying a house, buying it on installments at a greater cost, that the sister said, or buying it straight all out. Is this allowed in Islam? And with something written down saying that you're paying an increase of 5%?
Well, as the sister explained, it is halal. Now, the confusion comes from the problem that is, it's not a loan that you're paying interest over. This is haram, this is riba. For example, it costs 1 million riyals. If they lend you 1 million riyals and you give it back to them 1.4, 1.5 million riyals, this is riba, this is clear cut. This is a major sin, it's not permissible at all. But selling you something with an increase of the price is different. For example, you come to me and say, I'd like to buy this pen. And I tell you, I'll sell it to you for 10 riyals. Brother Jamil comes to me and tells me, I want to buy your pen. And I say, I'll sell it to you for 100 riyals. He doesn't have the right to say, why are you adding or increasing 90 riyals more than the sister? He said, well, it's my pen. I'll sell it to you for 1,000 riyals. It's mine. I can sell it to you in any way I wish. So, if we agree on this point, that I have the right to sell whatever property I have cash in any amount I wish, then we come back to splitting the scenario. And that is, you want to buy this land for this property for 1 million riyals, cash, go ahead. If you don't want to, and you'd like to have it in installments, I'm willing to do this, but the price would differ. And you have the choice. Before we sign the contract, you have to make a choice. You cannot sign on both. You have to make a determined choice on a fixed price. And this 5% has to be fixed in the sense that I've agreed that I'll pay it on the duration of 20 years. So I'm going to pay 1.8 million riyals. Now, if you say that if I'm late a month or a year over these 20 years, definitely this is unacceptable. If you increase the price, say, okay, and every month you postpone payment, you're going to pay 1%. No, this is riba. The 1.8 is a fixed price. Whether I pay it in 1 year or 10 years or 20 years, it's fixed. The owner has the right to reduce it. If instead of paying in 20 years, I pay it in 10 years, said, okay, this as a gift from myself, I'm going to make a discount of 200 or 300,000 riyals. In this case, inshallah, it's halal.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. We're going to take a short break and inshallah return in a couple of minutes. Please do stay with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
People used to fast only, you had to break the fast only between Maghrib and Isha. And if after Isha they are supposed to fast. It wasn't all the way until Fajr. My ummah is going to be alright as long as they hasten the breakfast and delay the suhoor.
Man is still man, the same nature, the same requirements, and the same statistics as you see here, even for men and women.
When it comes to managing two families, we have to be financially, they should be happy, and they should be financially taken care of.
What advice from your experience would you give the brothers who are thinking, like Brother Saif,
Right.
and for the sisters who are thinking as well, for their husband not to have a second wife?
You know that you have to be righteous in your actions to the best of your ability, as if you're following everything, the Sharia, the Sunnah, according to what the Prophet did and how he acted with his wives and his companions, and how his wives acted with him.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ask Huda. If you want to give us a call, please do. Our country code is 202-38555-248 or 249. If you want to give us a call, if you want to send us an email at ask@huda.tv. Do excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold today. Okay, Sheikh, I've got a question here, a very interesting question, because we know Hajj is coming upon us. Sister Fatima, she says, I want to go Hajj this year. It's going to be my first Hajj, inshallah. She wants to know, can I do this Hajj with the intention for my late father?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. The Prophet ﷺ once heard a man saying, Labbaik Allahumma hajjatan an shubrumah, which means that, oh Allah, I'm performing this Hajj on behalf of Shubrumah, a friend, a brother, a relative, or whatever. So the Prophet ﷺ asked this man, he told him, did you perform Hajj on your behalf, for yourself, which is the pillar of Islam? So the man said, no. So the Prophet told him, ﷺ, first perform Hajj on your behalf, then afterwards perform Hajj on whomever you wish. This answers the sister's question, and the answer is no. You have to perform Hajj on your behalf, which is the pillar of Islam. Afterwards, you can perform Hajj on whomever you wish.
And if we just transpose this to say Umrah, for example, same ruling or different?
The same ruling applies.
Barakallahu feek. Okay, Brother Ahmed has a question, and it's to do with Hajj again. He says nowadays Mina has been extended, some parts of it. All the travel agents who are giving this Hajj tours and the package itself, they're giving us cheaper rates if we live in that extended section. But I've heard that some scholars say this section is not part of Mina, it's part of Muzdalifah and so forth. Can we clarify this, Sheikh? Is it part of Muzdalifah?
There are borders for Mina, and one should spend these nights in Mina, which is the night of the 11th, the 12th, and if he's extending it, the 13th. Now, having said this, because of the amount of people, Mina cannot take all of them. Therefore, it is okay for them to stay at the borders, providing that it is completely full within Mina. It's like praying in a masjid, for example. You should pray in the masjid, but if the masjid is full, you may pray outside. And if outside is full, you may pray in the street. And it extends as long as the rows are connected. So it's the same thing, as long as the tents are connected, you may stay outside of these areas, as long as there is no place inside.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Saud from Oman. Sister, you're live and ask Huda your question, please. Sister Saud, are you there?
Yes, I am. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Before I ask my question, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your prayer, your fasting, and all the Muslims.
Ameen, ameen, Sister. Jazakallah khair.
My question, I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
And one of the question is, the last Ramadan, I was not able to fast because I was sick, and I was going through a treatment of breast cancer. But then I did feed 60 people for that month. But now, since Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I've regained my health, grace to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do I have to fast again that month?
Okay. Okay.
Why did you feed 60?
I really can't remember because I was asked by my sister to send money in Australia and to feed some poor people because I was not able to fast during Ramadan.
Yeah, 1 Ramadan, not 2.
1 Ramadan. So then my question is, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, this not only 1 Ramadan. And this Ramadan, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, thank to Allah, I'm able to fast and I have no any problem.
I will answer
now
this.
I say, since I have regained my health, do I have to redo the Ramadan? Which
yes, we got the question.
Last year?
It's clear, Sister. We've got the question. Jazakallah khair.
Second question.
And,
your second question?
And the other question, is it an obligation for women to pray Tarawih?
Okay.
And especially since they do discourage women to go to the mosque. So, I don't know, is it, since they discourage women to go to pray in the mosque, do we pray, is it obligation that we pray at home? Because sometimes it's, for me personally, I feel it is easier to go to the mosque and pray with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could please clarify and help me in those 2 questions. Thank you very much.
No problem. Jazakallah khair, Sister. Those questions by Sister Saud. Let's start with the first one, Sheikh. Okay. Regarding her illness, she had an illness, she's getting treatment for breast cancer. MashaAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her shifa, she's cured from this. But at that particular point, she sent money abroad. She fed poor people 60 there, for example. She wants to know, now I'm better, do I have to start fasting those missed fasts?
Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal for the blessing of health.
Oh.
And a calamity strikes and people start to appreciate the blessing they are enjoying by the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. So I pray to Allah that He bestows His mercy on all of us and He gets those who are ill to become well again, inshallah. First of all, feeding 60 poor people is not the right thing to do for those who are chronically ill. And before going into that, those who are ill or unable to fast, Allah tells us in the Quran that they may fast on other days, when they are well again, or when they are residing or capable of fasting. And we do not go to the option of feeding a poor person when you are unable to fast, except when this disability is permanent. In the sense that if a person who is 75 or 80 years old and who definitely is so weak and weary he cannot fast, this person is instructed to feed a poor person for every day he does not fast in Ramadan. And this goes on forever. He's not going to become younger next year. Likewise, those who are chronically ill, who the doctors say there is no cure for them.
So they're terminally ill, they're not going to return to health. That's
Yes.
what the doctor says.
This is permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of those who have problems with diabetes, for example. The doctors say this is going to stay with them forever. They cannot fast. They should not, and they cannot, and they must not fast. So doctors say that this is incurable. Those are instructed to feed a poor person for every day they break their fast. And this is what Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, used to do. He used to gather 30 poor people, cook food for them, and feed them for the whole month of Ramadan. So, having said that, you were under treatment, and inshallah, all those who are going chemotherapy or whatever, they will inshallah be cured. So, you were not ill permanently. You had the hope and wish, inshallah, to be cured, and that is why you have to make up for that, for those 30 days that you have missed. And those who you fed, the 60 poor people, inshallah, it's a charity for you.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, next we have Sister Abdul Rahman from Egypt. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, my question is very similar to the previous question, but mine's a bit more complicated because I've been pregnant and also feeding my babies for the past 3 or 4 Ramadans, and I found it very difficult because I've been permanently either feeding or being pregnant, and the previous Ramadans I've only fasted. Some of them I fasted just a few days. Some I tried to fast half of Ramadan, and also one Ramadan. Another question is that I've also I tried to write down the days that I missed, and also I've miscalculated one Ramadan. So my problem is, do I make up all the fast of all the Ramadans I missed in the past 4 years? Or can I feed a poor person? And also this Ramadan also, I'm unable to fast because I'm feeding my last baby because I've had 3 babies.
Okay.
So, and also the ones I miscalculated, what do I do for that?
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. Sheikh, regarding this question, because we're at this point, I think you can clear up a lot of these questions. You've just said now that somebody who is not terminally ill, they've got to make this fast up. So can we just get this question to the sister here?
Well, Sister Abdul Rahman is asking about feeding for a pregnant woman or a suckling woman. And the majority of scholars say that this is not applicable. There are, however, few hadiths reported or related to Ibn Umar and one to, if I'm not mistaken, Ali ibn Abi Talib or Ibn Abbas, one of them. And they used to tell those who were pregnant to feed a poor person for every day they missed. But the majority of scholars say, no, this is not permissible. You should make up for the days you've missed. So for the past 3 years, 4 years, 120 days, you can make up for these days, inshallah, the minute you don't have anything to stop you from fasting. The minute you are not conceiving or you're not suckling, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, Allah knows, whatever the time is right for you to make up for these days missed, you should do them, and feeding would not suffice.
And the miscalculation for one of the months, how do you go about calculating if you just forgot how many you've actually fasted in that month itself?
I personally believe that nowadays, through the internet, through the newspapers, through the calendars, you can calculate if the month is 29 or 30 days. But always be on the safe side. For example, if I tell you, were they 1,000 days? You said, no, that's a lot. So if we go down to 100 days, you said, probably less. So 80 days, you said, no, it's more. So you give or take, and always be on the positive and the plus side, and this, inshallah, will be for your own good deeds.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Mu'izz from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please. Sister, are you there with us? Wa alaikum assalam.
Sheikh Al-Hakeem and Brother Jamil, very thanks for the wonderful program, and Ramadan Kareem to you both of you.
And to you too, sister.
I have one question regarding the etikaf, because I was sitting, because since I came, I don't know before regarding the etikaf, but now I realize that I want to make the etikaf. But one of my friends said, if when we are starting the etikaf, we should start, whenever you will sit, it doesn't mean, but you should complete with the moon of the Eid. We should get up from there. Okay. That's why I have this complex, because we are doing here jobs, so that's why whenever we have the off, that time we are sitting in the once in the last week of the any time, whenever we are getting that time.
Okay.
And another thing, please, sorry for one more question.
Carry on.
Regarding, we have one now in India, one of the man, he is retired, he is having the pension from his company. So he is paying every month for all of the who is really needed people. And he is paying all who is really poor people, then he is the non-Muslim, Christian. And he is not having any relatives or anybody. And this money he is paying to Muslims or non-Muslim. When he is paying this one, he is not asking for any jaza, and he is telling no, because I don't have any relatives that I want to give them. And if I will give, maybe they will misuse. That's why he don't want to give. And he is giving the Muslims or non-Muslims who is really, really in the need. So that is it halal to take from this Christian man this money. Because my parents, they ask me, because most of the, when I'm watching you people, most of the questions I'm answering from your authentic hadiths like that. So this time my mother, she asked me, can we are capable to take this money or not? Thanks for that. Sorry for this. Please pray for my husband. He should come for the straight path.
Of course, if may Allah guide us all. Okay, Sheikh. Barakallah Fiki. Sister Samira there. Sheikh, I've got this question here from Sister Saud from Oman regarding Taraweeh. And needs a bit of a clarification here. Is it obligatory on a sister to go make Taraweeh? And she said something which is quite disturbing. She said that women are discouraged to go to mosques nowadays.
Okay. First of all, it is not obligatory for men nor for women to pray Taraweeh. It is not obligatory for men nor for women to pray Taraweeh. It's a sunnah. It's something that is preferred, something that you're encouraged to do. But if I don't do it, I'm still a Muslim. I have not committed any sin. But if you know the reward behind it and you miss it, you're still a Muslim, but there's something wrong up there. Because no one knows the huge amount of reward on Taraweeh and decides to skip it. Having said that, women are discouraged to go to the mosque, but they're not discouraged to pray. They're discouraged to go and mix and mingle with men on their way in, on their way out, wearing perfumes, wearing nice clothing, and tempting men when they are going for places of worship. The Prophet tells us, alayhi salatu wasalam, that a woman's prayer in her house is far more greater than praying in the masjid. Even in the masjid of Medina, where one prayer is equivalent to 1,000 prayer elsewhere other than the masjid of Mecca, Masjid al-Haram. Therefore, a sister is encouraged to perform Taraweeh, but in her house. And this is considered to be night prayer. And the latest, it is the best. And she could do this, she could pray with other sisters, 3 or 4 of them. And all of this, inshallah, is accepted during the month of Ramadan and elsewhere.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, the second question, another familiar one that comes in Ramadan, the itikaf for the sisters. This question was the sister saying that her friends are telling her, if you make itikaf, you've got to make itikaf right to the end. You've got to do...
The full 10 nights.
Yes, the full 10 nights. Sheikh, what is itikaf anyway, if you can give us a general understanding? And does it have to be made like this? Does it have to be 10 complete nights?
I'tikaf is to isolate yourself and limit yourself to the borders of the masjid. So you go to a masjid and you stay there for the last 10 nights of Ramadan or more, depending on what you're doing it for. The sunnah is to stay there for the last 10 nights of Ramadan. You pray all 5 prayers there. You attend the Friday sermon there. You are allowed to go out only to answer the call of nature or to eat, if you are unable to eat inside the masjid. And the best is to do it the full 10 nights. And the minimum, or the minimal amount or period accepted, as scholars say, is a full day and night. So if the sister is working and she has her weekends off, or she has days off, and she spends like a day or 2 in the masjid, this is acceptable, alhamdulillah. But is it sunnah? Is it recommendable? The answer again we get back to the first question, or the first answer, which says no, it's better for her to stay home and to worship Allah in her house.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, the second question from Sister Mu'idh from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is regarding somebody in a native country, India, a non-Muslim, who's taken his pension and distributing it to Muslims and non-Muslims jointly, not to his relatives, because he says, I don't really have any and I don't trust many of the people. Her parents are asking, can we take this money from him, this charity he's given us?
There's no problem, none whatsoever, of taking such money, because it's like a gift, and the Prophet ﷺ used to accept gifts. So if this man is giving it, and you are not asking for it, so there's a big difference. If someone comes to you and gives you money, accept it, because this was not initiated from yourself. It's not like me going to someone who's rich and say, listen, I need this or that, if you can, help me buy a Bentley or whatever. No, this is completely forbidden, because you are asking others, and asking others is un-Islamic. You should have your dignity, you should have your pride. But if something comes without you initiating it, you're not asking people, you're not begging people, someone just gives you something, alhamdulillah, this is acceptable.
Barakallah fiqh, Sheikh. Okay, I've got a question here. Just received it from the editor here. It's from somebody from Nigeria. And a very interesting question. He says, I'm terminally ill, so I'm not able to fast in Ramadan. But also, I'm very poor. I don't have the means to pay, to feed the poor. What do I do, Sheikh? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does the Prophet give us in guidance in this matter, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allah Azza wa Jal is the most merciful. If you are both terminally ill and you don't have any money or finance to feed people, there's nothing for you to do. Just say, Alhamdulillah, praise Allah. This is more than enough, because Allah Azza wa Jal does not ask you to do things beyond your ability.
And this thing, I mean, this is a general concept. I'm sure you're going to expand upon this very quickly. But many people, when they get to this stage, they say, but there must be something. I mean, they're not happy to just be content with Allah's mercy, that Allah's given them an option here. I mean, this part of this, accepting this option, is this part of the iman, of belief in Allah?
Well, you can't be so harsh on them.
Yes.
You can't be so harsh on people and say, no, because you have this in you, this means that you're not a mu'min, you're not a believer, you're not accepting Allah's ruling and verdict on you. No, it's not like this at all. The sensation, that's not sensation, it's the feeling itself of being sorry, being wanting to do something and being unable to do it, you are rewarded for that. But at the end of the day, the final conclusion should be that you should accept Allah's calamity over you and accept the fact that you don't have money, and then be happy with that. But the feeling itself is definitely a sign of belief, inshallah.
Okay, well, Jazakallah Shaykh Asim for all your answers today. That's the end of this program, this episode of Ask. And if you want to send an email, please do. Send it to ask@huda.tv. You can, of course, watch us on the internet at www.huda.tv, where you get all our program schedule for all of our shows. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah.